My name is Julia, and the moment I saw Marcus Chen adjusting his cufflinks at the altar, waiting to marry Victoria Ashford, the daughter of one of Pakistan's wealthiest textile magnates, I knew something was wrong. The way his eyes darted toward the exit every few seconds, the slight tremor in his hands, the forced smile that never reached his eyes. I'd seen that look before. 3 years ago, it had been directed at me, right before he told me he loved me. Have you ever watched someone you once trusted build their happiness on a foundation of lies? Let me back up. 4 years ago, I was a senior architect at Chen and Associates, one of Karachi's most prestigious design firms. I'd worked my way up from an intern position, spending nights in the office perfecting renderings, winning over difficult clients with patience and precision. I wasn't from money or connections. My father drove a taxi. My mother taught at a government school. Everything I had, I'd earned through 16-hour days and unwavering focus. Marcus Chen was the founder's nephew, brought in to learn the family business after getting his MBA from London. Charming, confident, always dressed like he'd stepped out of a magazine. We were assigned to the Meridian Tower project together, a mixed-use development that would define Karachi's skyline. I handled the technical design. He handled client relations and presentations. Somewhere between late-night planning sessions and celebrating our first major approval, I fell in love with him. Or maybe I fell in love with who I thought he was. He said all the right things. Told me I was brilliant, that my designs would change the city, that he'd never met anyone who understood him the way I did. 6 months into our relationship, Marcus proposed. Not with a ring. He said he wanted us to pick it out together, something meaningful. I should have known then. But I was too happy, too caught up in the dream of building a life with someone who finally saw my worth. The Meridian project was my masterpiece. I'd spent 18 months perfecting every detail: the sustainable cooling systems, the earthquake-resistant foundation, the way natural light would flow through the residential spaces. Marcus presented it to the board, to the investors, to the media. He was the face of the project, and I told myself that was fine. I didn't need the spotlight. I had the satisfaction of creation and the man I loved by my side. Then Victoria Ashford walked into our office. She was everything I wasn't: old money, society connections, a last name that opened doors before she even spoke. Her father wanted to invest in the Meridian project, but only if his daughter could be involved in the creative direction. I watched Marcus transform around her. The charming smile became more genuine, the attentive questions more focused. The late nights at the office suddenly included her. I told myself I was being paranoid, insecure, unprofessional. 3 months before the Meridian groundbreaking, Marcus ended our engagement over coffee at a cafe near the office. He was calm, almost businesslike about it. He said we'd grown in different directions, that he needed someone who understood his social obligations, that I would always be an important colleague. He paid for my coffee and left me sitting there, watching him through the window as he got into his car and drove away. I took 2 days off work. Then I came back and did my job because that's what people like me do. We don't have the luxury of falling apart. We have rent to pay and parents to support and a reputation to maintain in an industry that doesn't forgive weakness. 4 months later, Marcus and Victoria announced their engagement at a charity gala I wasn't invited to. I saw it on social media. Her diamond ring catching the light, his arm around her waist, both of them laughing at something someone said off camera. The Meridian project moved forward. My designs were built exactly as I'd drawn them. Marcus gave interviews to architecture magazines about his vision for sustainable urban development. My name appeared in the credits as project architect, technically accurate but practically invisible. In this industry, in this city, the person who presents owns the narrative. The person who creates is just a name in fine print. I could have lived with that. I'd already survived the heartbreak, the humiliation of being replaced, the quiet whispers from colleagues who'd seen it all happen. I could have moved on, found another firm, built other projects, made a different kind of life. But then I received the wedding invitation. It came to my office, hand-delivered by a courier in a cream envelope with gold embossing. Marcus Chen and Victoria Ashford request the honor of your presence. I stared at it for a full minute, trying to understand why I was being invited to watch the man who discarded me marry the woman he'd chosen instead. My colleague Zara leaned over my shoulder. Are you going to go? I don't know, I said. Go, she said firmly. Show up looking amazing. Show him you're fine, better than fine. But that wasn't why I decided to attend. I went because something about the invitation felt wrong. The timing, the formality, the fact that Marcus had made sure I received it. He was strategic about everything. Nothing he did was random. The wedding was held at the Ashford family estate, a sprawling property in the suburbs with manicured gardens and a fountain imported from Italy. I wore a simple navy dress and pearl earrings my mother had given me for my graduation. I wasn't trying to compete with the designer gowns and jewels around me. I was there to observe. The ceremony was beautiful in that calculated way expensive weddings are. Every flower perfectly placed, every detail coordinated, every guest positioned for optimal photos. Victoria looked radiant in custom Ely Saab. Marcus looked successful in his tailored tuxedo. They looked like they belonged together in a magazine spread about power couples. But during the vows, I noticed it. The same tells I'd seen when he'd lied to me about working late. The way he blinked rapidly when he said, I do. The slight hesitation before he kissed his bride. The way his smile didn't quite reach his eyes when he turned to face the applauding guests. Something was wrong. Terribly wrong. I kept my distance during the reception, nursing a glass of sparkling water and watching. Marcus worked the room like a politician, his hand always on Victoria's lower back, his attention always split between her and whoever he was talking to. He was performing the role of devoted groom, but it was exactly that, a performance. Then I overheard Victoria's younger brother talking to a group of groomsmen near the bar. 200 million, he said, slightly drunk. That's what Dad's putting into their new venture, the Ashford Chen Development Group. Marcus gets the capital, we get the Chen name and connections. Everyone wins. The words hit me like ice water. This wasn't a love story. This was a business merger dressed up as a wedding. I found myself walking toward the garden, needing air, needing space to process what I'd heard. That's when I saw him, Marcus, alone for the first time all evening, standing by the fountain with his phone pressed to his ear. I know, he was saying, his voice low and urgent. I know it's fast, but it's done now. The contracts are signed. We launch the Sapphire Bay project next month, and then… He paused, listening. No, she doesn't know. Her father doesn't know. Nobody knows about the rezoning issues. By the time they figure it out, we'll have already… He turned and saw me standing there. The expression on his face told me everything. Guilt, calculation. And then, quickly, a veneer of casual surprise. Julia, he said smoothly, ending the call. I didn't expect you to come. Clearly, I said. He walked toward me, hands in his pockets, wearing that charming smile that had once made my heart race. Now it just made me nauseous. Look, I know things ended badly between us, but I'm glad you're here. I wanted you to see that I'm happy, that we both moved on. This isn't about being happy, I said quietly. This is about her father's money and your new development group. What's the Sapphire Bay project, Marcus? What don't they know? His smile froze. You need to leave. What are you hiding? I said leave. His voice dropped to something dangerous. This is my wedding, Julia. You're a guest here out of courtesy. Don't make me regret that. I'm an architect, I said. I know what rezoning issues mean. I know what happens when developers cut corners to hide problems with land rights or environmental clearances. What are you planning? He stepped closer, and for the first time since I'd known him, I saw something cold in his eyes. If you say one word, about any of this to anyone, I will destroy your career. You. Think you've been invisible until now? I can make you radioactive. No firm in this city will touch you. I have the connections, the money, and the reputation. You have nothing. Remember that." Then he walked back toward the reception, leaving me standing by the fountain, shaking with rage and fear and something that felt like clarity. That night, I couldn't sleep. I kept replaying the conversation, the threat, the casual cruelty in his voice. Marcus was planning something illegal, or at minimum deeply unethical with the Ashford money. He'd married Victoria not for love, but for capital. And he was willing to destroy me to keep his secret. The old Julia would have walked away, would have protected herself, kept her head down, survived. But something had broken open in me by that fountain. Maybe it was the final insult of being threatened at his wedding. Maybe it was realizing that his betrayal hadn't been personal. I'd just been a stepping stone he'd used and discarded on his way to something bigger. Maybe it was understanding that if I didn't stop him, he would do this again to someone else. I decided to fight back. I started with what I knew. The Meridian Tower project had been my design, but Marcus had handled all the client communications and documentation. I'd signed off on the technical drawings, but I'd never seen the final permits or investor agreements. If he'd cut corners there, if he'd misrepresented anything to secure funding, there would be a trail. I called an old friend from university, Imran, who now worked in the city's development authority. We met for coffee. "I need to see the permit history for the Meridian Tower," I said. "All submissions, all approvals, all amendments." He raised an eyebrow. "That's public record, but it's not easy to navigate. What are you looking for?" "Inconsistencies. Anything that doesn't match the original design specifications." It took him 3 days to compile the file. When he handed it to me, his expression was troubled. "Julia, there are amendments here that postdate the original approval, changes to the foundation specifications, alterations to the environmental impact assessment. They're all signed off by Marcus as the project lead." I spread the documents across my kitchen table and compared them to my original designs. My hands started shaking. He'd changed the earthquake resistance specifications to save money on materials. He'd altered the environmental clearances to hide potential groundwater contamination issues. He'd done it all after I'd signed off on the technical designs, using my name and reputation as cover while making changes I would never have approved. If there was ever a major earthquake, and Karachi was in a seismically active zone, the Meridian Tower could fail. Hundreds of people lived and worked there now. I felt sick. This wasn't just about betrayal anymore. This was about lives at risk. I spent 2 weeks gathering evidence. I pulled my original design files, every email I'd sent about structural specifications, every technical report I'd filed. I documented the timeline of when Marcus had submitted the amendments, all after our breakup, all without my knowledge or approval. Then I started investigating the Sapphire Bay project. The Ashford Chen Development Group had announced it publicly, a luxury coastal development promising exclusive beachfront living in an area north of the city. The marketing material showed pristine beaches and modern villas. The price points were astronomical. I reached out to another contact, a lawyer named Farah who specialized in land rights and environmental law. We'd worked together on a pro bono housing project years ago. "Can you look into the land acquisition for this?" I asked, showing her the Sapphire Bay promotional materials. 2 weeks later, she called me. "Julia, this is bad. The land is in a disputed zone. There are ongoing court cases about indigenous fishing rights. The environmental clearance was rushed through with incomplete reports. And here's the thing. The development group didn't disclose any of this to their investors. If this moves forward and the court cases go against them, the entire project could be seized by the government. Anyone who invested would lose everything." "Including the Ashfords," I said. "Including the Ashfords," she confirmed. Marcus wasn't just unethical. He was building a house of cards, using other people's money and reputations, knowing it would eventually collapse, but planning to extract his profit before it did. I had a choice. I could take what I knew to the authorities, expose Marcus, and possibly save the Ashfords from financial ruin. Or I could walk away, protect myself, let the inevitable disaster unfold without my involvement. But then I thought about the families living in Meridian Tower, the workers who would build Sapphire Bay on false promises. Victoria, who for all her privilege didn't deserve to be used as a pawn in Marcus's schemes. I thought about every time I'd stayed quiet, every time I'd made myself smaller, every time I'd let someone else take credit because I thought that was the price of survival. I was done being quiet. I started with the media. Not the society pages or business press that Marcus courted, but an investigative journalist named Samir who'd built his reputation on exposing corporate fraud. I sent him my documentation anonymously at first. The Meridian amendments, the timeline, the evidence that changes had been made after my technical approval. He called me 3 days later. I need to verify this. Are you willing to go on record? Yes, I said. The first article ran 2 weeks later. Award-winning Karachi Tower built on compromised safety standards. It detailed every change Marcus had made, every corner he'd cut, every regulation he'd skirted. My name appeared as the original architect who'd raised concerns about unauthorized modifications. The response was immediate and explosive. The building authority launched an investigation. The engineering board opened a review. Residents of Meridian Tower filed a class action lawsuit. Marcus called me. I didn't answer. He called again and again. Finally, he showed up at my apartment. I opened the door but didn't let him in. "You've destroyed me," he said. His voice was shaking. "Do you understand what you've done? My career, my reputation, my marriage." "Your marriage?" I repeated. "Marcus, you married Victoria for her father's money. Don't pretend this is about love." "You're bitter," he spat. "You're a bitter, jealous woman who can't handle that I moved on to someone better." "I'm an architect," I said calmly, "who reported safety violations that could have killed people. That's not bitterness. That's ethics. The Ashfords will sue you. They'll bury you in legal fees. Victoria's father has lawyers on retainer who eat people like you for breakfast." "Let them," I said, "because I'm not done." I closed the door in his face. The next phase was harder. I took my evidence about Sapphire Bay to the Ashford family directly, not through lawyers or press releases, but by requesting a meeting with Victoria's father, Shahzad Ashford. His assistant tried to screen me out. I sent a single line. "Your investment in Sapphire Bay is built on undisclosed land disputes that will cost you everything. I have proof." He met with me the next day in his office, a corner suite overlooking the city. He was a man in his 60s, sharp-eyed and clearly not used to being challenged. "You have 10 minutes, he said. I laid out everything. The land disputes, the incomplete environmental clearances, the ongoing court cases that Marcus had hidden from the investment committee. I showed him documents, court filings, environmental reports that directly contradicted the materials the Ashford Chen Development Group had provided. "Your son-in-law married your daughter to access your capital," I said. "He's building a project he knows will fail, planning to extract management fees and early profits before the whole thing collapses. When it does, the Ashford name will be destroyed. Your family's reputation will be attached to a fraud case that could take years to resolve." Shahzad Ashford didn't speak for a long moment. Then he said, "Why should I believe you? You're Marcus's ex-girlfriend. You have every reason to lie." "I'm an architect with 15 years of experience and a reputation for technical accuracy," I said. "I have documentation. I have third-party verification from lawyers who specialize in land rights. I have court records that are public, and I have nothing to gain from this except doing the right thing." "What do you want?" he asked. "I want you to do your due diligence before you lose 200 million rupees and your family's legacy." He looked at me for a long time. Then he picked up his phone. Get me Kawaja from legal, now. Over the next month, the Ashford family conducted their own investigation. They discovered everything I'd told them was true and worse. Marcus had already diverted initial investment funds into offshore accounts, setting up shell companies to hide his profit extraction. He wasn't just planning to let the project fail, he was planning to rob them in the process. Victoria filed for divorce. Shahzad Ashford withdrew all investment from the Ashford Chen Development Group and filed both criminal and civil charges against Marcus for fraud, breach of contract, and misrepresentation. The Meridian Tower investigation concluded that the building required immediate structural remediation costing millions. Marcus's professional engineering license was suspended, pending a full board review. His uncle's firm severed all ties with him to protect their reputation. Within 6 weeks of that wedding, where Marcus had threatened me by the fountain, his entire carefully constructed life had collapsed. I wish I could say I felt triumphant. Instead, I felt exhausted and strangely empty. Then Victoria called me. We met at a quiet cafe, both of us wearing sunglasses despite being inside, both of us trying to maintain some privacy in a city that loved to gossip. "I don't know if I should thank you or hate you," she said. "You can do both," I replied. She laughed, but it was bitter. "I feel so stupid. Everyone probably thinks I'm stupid." "You're not stupid. You're someone who trusted the wrong person. That's not stupidity. That's human." "Did you love him?" she asked. I thought I did, but I think I loved the idea of being loved by someone like him. Someone successful and confident who made me feel like I'd finally arrived. I paused. "Did you?" "I don't know," she said quietly. "Maybe I loved the idea too. The partnership, the future we could build together. My father liked him. My friends were impressed. It felt right from the outside." "From the outside," I repeated. We sat in silence for a moment. "What will you do now?" she asked. "Work," I said. "Design buildings. Try to do it honestly." "I'm starting a foundation," she said, "for women in business, helping them do due diligence on partnerships and investments, teaching them the things I wish I'd known." She looked at me directly. "I'd like you to be on the advisory board. We need people who actually understand technical details and aren't afraid to speak up." I was surprised. "Why me?" "Because you did something I couldn't. You asked the hard questions. You risked everything to tell the truth. That's the kind of integrity we need." 3 months later, I testified in court about the Meridian Tower modifications. It was televised. The entire architecture community watched. I explained in technical detail how Marcus had compromised structural integrity, altered environmental assessments, and used my designs as cover for his cost-cutting measures. His lawyer tried to discredit me, suggesting I was motivated by romantic revenge. "Ms. Julia," he said, his voice dripping with condescension, "isn't it true that you were engaged to Mr. Chen and he ended the relationship?" "Yes," I said. "And isn't it true that you were upset about this?" "I was hurt," I said. "I was also hurt when I discovered that a building I designed had been structurally compromised without my knowledge or consent. One of those hurts was personal. The other was professional and put lives at risk. I know the difference." "You could have reported these concerns internally," he pressed. "Why go to the media?" "I tried," I said. "I raised concerns during the project. They were dismissed. After Mr. Chen and I ended our relationship, I was gradually excluded from project communications. When I discovered the amendments months later, I reported them through proper channels. When nothing happened, I had two choices: stay silent while people lived and worked in a potentially dangerous building, or go public. I chose people's safety over protecting anyone's reputation, including my own. The judge ruled in favor of the residents. Marcus was found liable for damages and barred from practicing architecture in Pakistan. The criminal fraud case regarding Sapphire Bay was still ongoing, but the evidence was overwhelming. I didn't attend the final hearing. I was in my new office, working on a design for a community center in a neighborhood where I'd grown up. Small project, modest budget, but it was mine. Honest work with my name on it. My phone buzzed with messages as the verdict came through. Colleagues congratulating me, reporters requesting interviews, Zara sending a string of celebration emojis, and one message from an unknown number. I hope you're happy now. You've destroyed everything. I deleted it without responding. Because here's what Marcus never understood. I didn't destroy anything. I just refused to be complicit in his destruction of others. I didn't win because I was vengeful or bitter. I won because I told the truth and backed it up with evidence when everyone else chose silence or complicity. 6 months after the trial, I was hired as a senior architect at a firm that specialized in sustainable, community-focused development. I was designing buildings that served people, not profits. I was mentoring young architects, especially women, teaching them that their technical expertise was worth more than anyone's charm or connections. I ran into Marcus once at an industry conference I was speaking at about ethical architecture practices. He was there with a small group, trying to rebuild his reputation in a different city. We didn't speak. He looked older, diminished somehow. I felt nothing looking at him. No anger, no satisfaction, no residual pain. He was just someone I used to know who'd made terrible choices. Victoria's foundation was thriving. She'd become a powerful advocate for financial literacy and due diligence in women's business ventures. She was dating a lawyer who seemed to actually make her laugh. She looked happier than I'd ever seen. Her in those wedding photos. On the 1-year anniversary of the day I'd stood by that fountain and watched my former life implode, my mother called me. "I saw your interview in the newspaper," she said, "about designing with integrity." "Did you like it?" I asked. "Your father and I were always proud of you, Beta. But now we're proud of your courage, too. You stood up when it was hard. That matters more than any building you'll ever design." I thought about that a lot in the months that followed. About courage, about truth, about the cost of staying silent versus the cost of speaking up. People ask me sometimes if it was worth it. The threats, the legal battles, the public scrutiny, the risk to my career. They want a simple answer, a clean morale to the story. But the truth is complicated. The truth is that doing the right thing cost me sleep and peace and months of my life consumed by stress. The truth is that I was scared every single day that I would lose everything. The truth is also that I would do it again, because I sleep well now, because I can look at my reflection and recognize the woman looking back, because I'm building things that matter with my own name on them, not hiding in someone else's shadow, because revenge isn't about destruction. Real revenge, the kind that actually means something, is about refusing to let someone else's cruelty make you small. It's about speaking truth, even when silence would be safer. It's about building something better from the ruins of what they tried to take from you. My name is Julia, and I learned that the best revenge isn't bringing someone down to your level. It's rising so far above their level that they become irrelevant to your story. The day you realize your integrity matters more than anyone's opinion of you is the day you become truly free. Retry.